The apartment is quiet enough to hear the fridge hum. Midnight light spills through half-closed blinds, striping the walls like prison bars. My name's Nina, 33, editor at a lifestyle magazine, which means I spend my days fixing other people's stories while mine keeps falling apart. Beside her, Evan sleeps. 35, software engineer, calm in the way spreadsheets are calm. He breathes evenly, one arm tucked under the pillow, the other draped over the duvet like he's guarding something. His phone buzzes once, then again, screen face down, like always. She tells herself not to look. She's not that woman, the one who snoops, who doubts, who turns love into surveillance. But the buzz comes again, sharper this time. Impulse wins. She flips it. A message flashes across the lock screen. You can't sleep? Just a name she doesn't recognize. No emojis, no explanation, just intimacy disguised as small talk. Her pulse stumbles. She doesn't unlock it. She doesn't need to. It's not what's said that hurts. It's what someone else already knows about him. The kind of detail she thought was hers alone. She looks at him, motionless beside her. The kind of man who double-checks every code, every lock, every alibi. And in that stillness, she realizes something. I used to think silence was peaceful. That night, I realized it just hides the noise you're not supposed to hear. Before you judge me for not asking, understand, quiet was our language. Evan and I were both introverts who mistook compatibility for connection. Evenings meant the soft clatter of two keyboards in sync. Him debugging, me editing. We'd sit on opposite ends of the couch, screens glowing, toes touching just enough to count as intimacy. We'd been together 5 years. No kids, no pets, just a high-rise apartment that smelled like coffee, deadlines, and the faint citrus of his aftershave on shared towels. From the outside, we looked like the kind of couple that figured it out. The grown-ups who made it past the drama. We didn't fight. We didn't celebrate. We just existed. Smooth, predictable, almost rehearsed. I used to tell my friends it was peaceful, that we'd grown past the chaos of our 20s. They'd nod and say we were rock solid, and I believed them, because stability sounds holy when you've survived heartbreak. It feels like healing when really it's just stillness. Evan loved routines, same breakfast, same route to work, same playlist on Sunday mornings. I loved how easy it felt to fit into his patterns. I told myself that quiet meant trust, that comfort was proof of love. But comfort can be a kind of camouflage. It hides what you stop looking for. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at his laptop too long, or smiling at messages he never mentioned. I brushed it off. He's just decompressing, I'd tell myself. He's earned his space. I didn't want to break the spell by asking questions. I thought stability meant safety. Turns out, it's just the slowest kind of suffocation. So, when I saw that message, "You can't sleep?" I told myself not to overthink it. But that's what denial is. Self-care with better lighting. We met at a friend's dinner party, one of those dimly lit gatherings where everyone pretends to be effortlessly interesting. I was complaining about a headline I couldn't fix. He was the quiet guy at the end of the table, listening more than speaking. When I joked that I edit words for a living but can't seem to edit my own life, he smiled and said, "Maybe that's the point. Stories aren't meant to be perfect." That was Evan, observant, patient, a man who made silence feel intentional, not empty. He once told me, "You make quiet feel like company." And I believed him. The early days were soft and cinematic. Shared playlists, late-night ramen after deadlines, the hum of the city outside our window. We'd read in bed, passing lines of poetry like secrets. He'd text me essays instead of "good morning," full of thoughts about books, work, and the way I laughed mid-sentence. Everything he said felt curated, deliberate, considered. I mistook that for depth. But somewhere between year 2 and 3, the essays turned into bullet points. Texts became reminders. Calls became missed. Our routines filled the gaps conversation used to live in. We stopped talking about dreams and started talking about storage, boxes, bills, schedules, things that didn't matter, but somehow mattered most. He once mentioned he hates over-communicating. I thought it meant he was calm, mature, someone who didn't need drama to feel alive. What it really meant was that silence suited him better than honesty. We didn't fall out of love. We just forgot to notice when the sound faded. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. His phone habits changed the way seasons do. Subtly, almost politely. More notifications, different hours, a vibration he'd silence before she could glance. At first, Nina didn't notice. Or maybe she did, but she was too tired to label it. She told herself that every long-term couple learns to stop obsessing over the little things. Still, the pattern grew roots. His phone was always face down, volume off. When she teased him about it one evening, "What? Hiding state secrets?" He just smiled. "Habit," he said. "I get distracted easily." The explanation was smooth, almost rehearsed, and because she'd built her identity around being the chill partner, the rational one, she laughed and let it go. She knew what paranoia could do to a relationship. Her mother once destroyed a marriage over assumptions. Nina swore she'd never become that woman. But the air shifted, little by little. At night, he started sleeping further away, citing a bad back. The bed felt wider, colder. Sometimes, when she reached for him, her hand met only the empty dip of a pillow. His routine turned algorithmic, precise, repetitive, late work calls, quiet exits for fresh air. Even the lies sounded like good manners. She convinced herself it was stress, that maybe she wasn't being attentive enough. So she worked harder, made his favorite dinners, asked about his day, offered to stretch his back while he watched TV. He'd thank her with that distracted warmth, the kind people use when their mind's somewhere else. Then came the first crack she couldn't tape over. One early morning, just before dawn, she woke to the faint sound of a voice. Evan's. She tiptoed toward the balcony, barefoot, holding her breath. He was out there in the half-light, phone pressed to his ear, whispering and laughing. Not the short, polite kind she knew. The soft, effortless kind that came from somewhere deep. It hit her harder than shouting ever could. She hadn't heard that sound in months. When he noticed her, he startled. Just slightly, then smiled too quickly. "Work call," he said. "Europe team." She nodded, pretended to believe him, walked back to bed like it was all fine. But it wasn't the call that hurt. It was realizing he still had laughter in him. Just not for her. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the faint morning light creeping in. I didn't confront him that morning. I just listened to what silence sounded like after laughter. You start noticing patterns when love turns into observation. When he showers, when he checks his phone, when he turns his body away from the light. Deception, it turns out, has rhythm, and Nina learns it by repetition. He still looks like her Evan. Same soft voice, same half smile when he's pretending to listen. But something in him hums differently now, like a radio tuned just off station. She times it unconsciously. The minutes between his texts and his replies, the pauses before he locks his screen, the excuses that sound almost believable. Then one evening, he goes for a run and forgets his phone. It sits on the counter, face down, like a dare. She tells herself she's just moving it, just putting it somewhere safe, but when her fingers brush the screen, it wakes. The lock screen lights up. A name, a message. Alex. Missed you last night. Her heart stops. She doesn't open it, just stares as another message appears. When can we talk? And the air thickens. She swipes just far enough to see the thread of timestamps. Weeks of quiet exchanges, each one small, soft, deliberate. Nothing explicit, no evidence, just intimacy stripped to its essentials. And then the detail that breaks her logic in half. The name, Alex. A man. It doesn't ignite jealousy. It rearranges her entire understanding of him, of them. Not betrayal, disorientation. Every memory replays itself out of order. The silences, the distance, the absence of touch she kept excusing as stress or age or comfort. She realizes the truth. She'd built him a fortress of quiet, and he'd used it to disappear. It didn't make me angry, she thinks. It made me complicit, like I'd built the perfect silence for him to hide inside. When Evan returns, sweaty and smiling, she's sitting at the table, his phone now back in its usual place. "Good run?" she asks. He nods. "Cleared my head." He kisses her forehead. Routine, practiced, thoughtless. She studies his face, wondering which version of him she's looking at, the man she loved or the man he finally allowed himself to be. She doesn't ask who Alex is. She just starts counting how many nights he stays up thinking. Nina doesn't explode. She dissolves, quietly, efficiently, like steam. She works later than usual, lets unread emails pile up, comes home after he's already asleep. Their apartment turns into a waiting room, polite, silent, overlit. She starts replaying the messages in her head, rewriting them into stories she can survive. Maybe Alex is a coworker, maybe it's a project, maybe she misunderstood everything. But denial has a half-life. It lingers even after the truth has already bloomed. She starts hearing songs differently, lyrics about honesty and home hit wrong. She can't listen to their old playlist anymore. Every chorus feels like a ghost. A friend at work asks if she's okay. Just work stress, she lies. The words taste familiar. They're the same ones Evan uses. Days later, he forgets again. His phone, unlocked this time, glowing on the kitchen counter while he showers. It buzzes. A call flashes across the screen. Alex. Work. Her hand moves before her conscience can argue. She answers. Silence. Then a man's voice. Low. Worried. Is he okay? The question knocks the air out of her. Then panic in his tone. Oh God! Did he... Click. The call ends. Her heart pounds. It's not an affair. It's a history. Through fragments and tone, it clicks. Alex isn't new. He's someone Evan used to love. Someone he never mentioned. Someone he's been speaking to again. Quietly. Like a man revisiting a version of himself he misses. When she confronts him that night, he looks terrified, not guilty. I just wanted to talk to someone who knew me before everything got heavy, he says. She stares. What am I then? The weight? He doesn't answer. That silence is louder than any confession. He moves to the couch that night, quietly, apologetic, unsure. No fight, no promises. Just distance, practice to perfection. He doesn't pack a bag, just takes his phone and stays there. And for the first time, she doesn't care if it's face down or not. Weeks pass, soft and shapeless. They coexist like polite ghosts, passing each other in doorways, murmuring thank yous over coffee, living parallel lives under the same ceiling. There are no more explanations, no more lies to tidy up. She stops asking. He stops pretending. The silence they once called peace now feels industrial, too clean, too echoing. She deletes their shared playlists, the ones filled with soft piano and words about forever. She reorders her bookshelves, moves his things to a single shelf, an exhibit of what used to belong. She starts sleeping on her own side of the bed again, as if reclaiming square footage means reclaiming self. Sometimes she still misses the quiet, not because it was comforting, but because it was predictable, at least before she knew how the silence would behave. One evening, an email arrives from Alex. Subject, none, just one line. He's lost. Don't hate him. No punctuation, no defense, just kindness. The kind that doesn't demand an answer. She doesn't respond. Instead, she writes short essays about interior spaces, about what emptiness does to sound. She types, I realized our home had perfect acoustics for denial. And for the first time, the words feel like hers again. One morning, Evan's things are gone. No fight, no goodbye, just a note on the counter, folded neatly beside his turned-off phone. You deserve someone who speaks up. She folds it back and leaves it there. A relic, not a wound. When the door finally closes, the silence sounds different. Not peace, just the absence of someone who mistook it for love. Nina's at her desk, editing an article about communication in relationships. The irony isn't lost on her. She pauses on a line. Silence is love's slowest death. Her cursor hovers. She doesn't delete it, just lets the words breathe. Outside, the city hums. Cars, voices, a world that never learned how to shut up. Inside, she's still learning how to live without the quiet that used to feel like home. She saves the document, leans back, and lets the thought finish itself. He always turned his phone face down, Until one night, I flipped it over first. That's when I realized silence can cheat louder than words. She doesn't miss him. She misses being someone worth explaining things to. Her life has rearranged itself. New apartment, same routines, smaller bed. Still, sometimes she catches herself turning her own phone face down. Not to hide, just out of habit. The gesture feels like muscle memory, a souvenir from a quieter kind of pain. People think betrayal is about what you find. It's not. It's about what you already knew and kept quiet about anyway.